Coming up on The World Today, President Joe Biden confirms killing of leader of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri, in a drone strike in Afghanistan. Top U.S. Democrat Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan as part of tour of Asia despite sharp warnings from China. Plus, Russia accuses U.S. of direct involvement in the war in Ukraine for the first time. A warm welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. We begin with the confirmation by the U.S. President of the killing of the leader of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri, in a drone strike in Afghanistan. President Joe Biden says the Al-Qaeda leader was killed in a counter-terrorism operation carried out by the CIA in the Afghan capital of Kabul last weekend. The Al-Qaeda leader and Osama bin Laden plotted the 9/11 attacks together, and he was one of America's most wanted terrorists. The FBI updated its most wanted terrorist poster with Zawahiri's status as deceased. A senior administration official told reporters that U.S. intelligence determined with high confidence that the man killed was Zawahiri and no other casualties occurred. The drone attack is the first known U.S. strike inside Afghanistan since U.S. troops and diplomats left the country in August 2021.
My fellow Americans, on Saturday, at my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman Al-Zawahiri. Now, justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more. That no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out. And 1 week ago, after being advised that the conditions were optimal, I gave the final approval to go get him. And the mission was a success. None of his family members were hurt, and there were no civilian casualties. I'm sharing this news with the American people now, after confirming the mission's total success through the painstaking work of our counterterrorism community and key allies and partners. When I ended our military mission in Afghanistan almost a year ago, I made the decision that after 20 years of war, the United States no longer needed thousands of boots on the ground in Afghanistan to protect America from terrorists who seek to do us harm. And I made a promise to the American people that we continue to conduct effective counterterrorism operations in Afghanistan and beyond.
Meanwhile, Taliban authorities have tightened security near the site where the Al-Qaeda leader was killed. Armed Taliban soldiers and empty streets could be seen near the site this morning, although no visible damage could be seen. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid confirmed that a strike took place and strongly condemned it, calling it a violation of international principles. For years, Zawahiri was believed to be hiding along the forbidding border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Over in Kenya, citizens say the killing of Al-Zawahiri has brought a sense of closure to victims injured in Al-Qaeda's bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi 24 years ago. Spokesperson of Kenyan Victims Association, Douglas Sidialo, termed the killing an act of God, however, adds that the damages to Kenyan families of victims or those injured in the attack had not been paid. This is despite a promise by President Biden in 2010, when he was vice president, to look into the issue of compensation during a visit to Nairobi. Mr. Sidialo, who became blind as a result of the explosion, adds that Americans should rise up to the occasion and see to it that Kenyan victims are compensated and to ensure the human rights of Kenyans are addressed just as much as the Americans. Just before we go over to our analyst to talk more about this, news just in, it says that 5 more passengers who were kidnapped by terrorists during the attack on a Kaduna-bound train March the 28th have regained their freedom. The security agencies and the federal government are yet to confirm the development, but a member of the negotiating team, Tuka Mamu, told Channels Television that the victims were released today Tuesday. He gave the names of the 5 released hostages as well, and he called them Professor Mustafa Umar Imam, who's a medical officer at the Usman Dan Fodio University Teaching Hospital, Sokoto, Akibu Lawal, Abubakar Ahmed Rufai Mukhtar Shraib, and Sidi Aminu Sharif. Mr. Mamu says he has backed out of the negotiation for the release of the kidnapped victims due to threats to his life, personal integrity, and lack of support from the federal government. News just in that terrorists have released 5 more abducted Kaduna-Abuja train attack victims. Let's go over to the discussion on Zawahiri's killing by the United States. Security analyst Timothy Oludo joins me now for more. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And this is another historic execution by the United States. Zawahiri took over Al-Qaeda after the death of Osama bin Laden. What can you tell us about this man, Ayman Al-Zawahiri, who he was?
It's a man that is known to many around the world as being a terrorist, but actually from a very good home. It's a 71-year-old Egyptian doctor who graduated in 1974, born in June, of course, June 1951, and actually has a master's. He's a doctor. But right from school days in Egypt, he decided to get involved in political Islam, and as a result, he fell foul of the law in Egypt, and he got pulled in on many occasions for his involvement in many atrocities in Egypt, including, the assassination of the Egyptian president. But he was exonerated of that assassination, but found with weapons. So as a result, he went to jail for 3 years. And when he was released around early mid-80s, he decided to move to Saudi Arabia, stayed in Saudi Arabia for a time, moved to Pakistan, and actually got involved with Osama bin Laden. And the two of them started the Al-Qaeda movement, and actually were involved or spearhead the attack on U.S. In September 2001. And he's been targeted on many occasions, including, just like your report clearly highlighted, he was involved in the first attack on African soil, terrorist attack, one of the first attacks of African soil in Kenya. And as a result, a lot of families lost their life. And even 2 weeks after the attack by the U.S. drone, to try and get them out, their camps, he came out and said nobody can get him and things like that. But it's sad that it's good that he's out of the picture, but in the last few years, it's been quite quiet because there's a lot of groups that have actually surpassed Al-Qaeda in terms of their brutality and their hatred of the U.S. government.
And there have been several reactions to this strike. I mean, former U.S. President Barack Obama said on Twitter that the news is also proof that it is possible to root out terrorism without being at war in Afghanistan. He also talked about that he hopes it will provide a small measure of peace to families, to loved ones. But this was a strike, his death happened in Kabul, Afghanistan. Does it raise a question as to the role the Taliban's played in this?
There's no doubt that many will be asking questions that after the fall of Kabul, in terms of the disgraceful exit of the U.S., or the way they managed the exit, one would have thought that with America and other countries saying we're not going to give you aid, we're not going to support your country except you stop sponsoring terrorism and other things, that after that incident, the one of the most wanted terrorists, because there were 22 of them, and he had a $25 million bounty on his head, one would have thought that he would not actually have been killed in Afghanistan. They will have been killed somewhere else, because the Afghan Taliban leaders have come out to say they will not harbor terrorism, and we've seen the kind of fight that they've been having with ISIS instead of all the bombing that have been going on. So it shows that there is still relationship between some terrorist group and the Taliban government or administration that is still there right now. But let's look at it from a different perspective. The perspective we need to look at it is the shift in the American policy. They ceremonially removed all their troops from at least from Afghanistan, but yet they changed their strategic policy. And, instead of putting boots on the ground, they are now using drones. And we know that at least more than 14,000 strikes have been carried out by the Americans. And I think that is the question that we need to look at. Is this the new strategic positions that the Americans will be taking, that they will not be putting their boots on the ground, just like the French are actually changing their policy in Africa? I think those are the questions that we need to look at now.
Interestingly, also, first is, what impact do you think this would have on global security? This is also seeing as that he took over from Osama bin Laden. Could there be another takeover, someone replacing him after this?
There's no doubt that somebody will take over from him. What we don't know is if they will go on a revenge spree, i.e. they might decide to target U.S. interest both within the region or outside the region or other places, i.e. there might be a cry out. We know that after the 2001 incident, 9/11 incident, he actually appeared in 17 videos up to 2007, where he was, more or less encouraging and saying all kind of things similar to what Osama bin Laden did before he was taken out in 2011. So, but what we know about the Al-Qaeda strategy and the way they do things is that they are not the type that are quick to respond. They tend to prefer very grand kind of approach, not like ISIS and the others who might decide to go and attack people on the train and kill 3 or 4 people, or somebody just stand up and start killing in the name of ISIS. They don't do that. So they might be planning a bigger one. But we still don't know. Definitely somebody will take over. What they will plan, we don't know. But we know that this will not stop the Americans actually going after their leaders. Once they come out with a leader and his name is visible, his name will be on the list of the ones to be killed by the Americans. And the Americans will use their drones wherever that person might be hiding around the world, because they've used their drones in Somalia, they've used it in Yemen, they've used it in other countries. So I'm not surprised if Americans will continue to use this strategy instead of having boots on the ground.
Does this provide a small measure of peace to the 9/11 families, everyone else who suffered in the hands of Al-Qaeda, a sense of closure for those that suffered 24 years ago in Nairobi, Kenya?
I think it's a sense of hope for all those, because the people that died in Kenya and the people that died during the 9/11, most of them were not just Americans, but there are also other citizens of the world. But it's a kind of a relief for them to know that somebody will go out. I think it's important for your viewers that are listening to us right now that we had that there was a mock-up of the room, of how, the place where he was. They did a drawing of it, and they were having that conversation in the White House to talk about how they were attacked and the president was getting involved. I know that many people watching me in Nigeria and other parts of the world, we wish that with all these guys that are releasing people onto the highway in Nigeria, that there's a map that is made of those places in Asu Rock, and they are having discussion with Mr. President and saying, this is how we intend to hit it. That is the kind of responsible approach that we're expecting, from the leadership that is trying to hold, people accountable for things that is being done. So I know many people around the world will be happy that this guy is out of the way, and many people will be hoping their leaders will be looking at this example of what has happened in America and be taking those examples and replicating them to deal with issues of security in their homeland.
Indeed, and this was really my final question in terms of the lessons learned for Nigeria and other countries. We heard the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, saying on Twitter that his death is a step towards a safer world. He says Canada will keep working with the global partners to counter terrorist threats, promote peace, security, keep people in Canada at home and around the world safe. Also cited by state news agency Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry, says Al-Zawahiri is considered one of the leaders of terrorism that led the planning execution of the heinous terrorist operations in the U.S. And Saudi Arabia. So, you know, a lot of these comments, reactions about this. But one takeaway for us, Nigeria, seeing as we are facing quite a number of challenges on the security front.
If there's any takeaway, which is what we've been saying all the time, listen, watch, and learn. It took them months. It's not we're on top of it. You don't see the American president coming up and say we're on top of it. It gives his commander, an order. They go out. They're not having meetings every month and coming out and showing us on camera that they've had meeting and the president is on top of it. No, they had a plan. They went out. Intelligence. Money is put in there into intelligent people are going around. We know how Islamic Baladi was targeted. People were going there to say that they were taking immunizations and things like that. What is our own security agents doing? What are they doing with our money? All we're hearing, and I'm not blaming our security, are doing the best they could. We have very good people there, but what we're hearing is people burying money in farms and putting money in abandoned houses. What we want is for the money that is allocated, Nigerian money that's allocated for security, to be used in the right places and for intelligence to be used effectively to root out these people. Just like we had just a few days ago about, neutralizing those people that attacked, the presidential guard. We want more of those proactive approach. That is what we want. And then we'll come here and applaud them for what they're doing. But if they're not doing it, we'll come here and also tell them that they need to do more because Nigerians deserve more.
And just before I let you go, this also is pretty much an ideology, looking at, the Taliban, the way terrorism is in other parts of the world. And it's pretty difficult to kill an ideology. I mean, you can take the person out, but then how do you, face this particular threat?
Very simple. The only way to face this kind of threat is to create a superior narrative. If the narrative is that Western education is wrong, then it is for you to go there and show them that Western education can add value. Western education can help in conjunction with the Islamic teachings, that it could help, and that the Islamic religion itself is against the taking of life. You need to go out there, you need to preach it, you need to use your leaders, you need to use your people to go out there and show yourself accountable to the people. When people see that you are accountable and you are doing the right thing, then people will follow you. But when these people can come out and show that they are not corrupt, they are providing a better service to the people on ground, then, and we have 774 local government, but how many of those local government have light? How many of those local government have water? But here we are seeing every year that budget is being given and the budget is padded, and these amenities is not getting to the people. Then some people will come from nowhere in a government space and provide them with service. What do you expect? What do you expect? There are conflict entrepreneurs that are creeping up every month, every day, every month, that are making money from the conflict that is going on. And yet we are not doing anything about it. And we're not doing anything about it. That is the challenge that we have. But we are good people, great nation, and I know we can do it.
We always appreciate your time on the program. Thank you so much, security analyst Temitope Olodo. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.